Hello, everyone. I wanted to do something a little bit different today. One of the commenters on the channel had suggested I do some movie reviews, and I had wanted this channel to be strictly about metal, but a lot of the principles that make up good metal records can be found in great movies as well. And one of my favorite movies of all time is Don't Look Now from 1973. I discovered this movie in a really bizarre way. I like schlocky, garbage ass horror movies from the 80s usually, as you could tell by a lot of my decor. And I went down a rabbit hole from Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 3, which is a terrible movie, but the director of that movie was asked at a convention or something what he thought one of the scarier movies he's seen is. And he did not like horror movies. He was actually just told that he needed to make a sequel to Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, which, he, as we all know, is a meme-laden movie now, but he wasn't really aware of what it was, didn't like the horror genre, and he took it in his own direction. But his answer to the question was this movie from 1973, Don't Look Now. And he didn't tell the audience why. He just ended the question there, and I was like, well, I need to find out what that is because I hadn't heard of this movie. Granted, my horror preferences are in the 80s, and with this being much earlier, it kind of went under the radar for me. But I've discovered since then that a lot of the really great, atmospheric, very dreadful movies happened in the 70s as opposed to the splatterfest instant gratification that you get from 80s horror. But this particular movie did give me more of a jolt, more of that sense of actual fear than most other horror movies I've seen. So he was correct in his assessment that this is a legitimately scary movie, but it's also so much more. This is a fucking goddamn masterpiece of a film. There's all of the themes that make up a lot of great metal records are going to be expressed in this movie. It starts with a scene where the main character discovers that his daughter has drowned, and the entire rest of the movie is it's just consumed with this feeling of grief. So he and his wife take a trip to Venice for his work, and the remainder of the movie deals with how a couple can deal with that kind of grief of losing a family member while still kind of grappling with your own mortality and the idea of fate in general. There's a lot of themes in this movie that kind of interlock and don't make sense until the end. There's themes of clairvoyance. There's themes of fate and the futility of hope. Throughout this movie, you have the idea that the main character is trying to salvage remnants of his dead daughter. He thinks that he's seeing her in Venice, and the movie ends in a climax. I'm not going to give anything away, but the idea that you can fuck with fate and kind of change what you're predestined to become. This is a much more successful interpretation of that than, say, like a Terminator movie, which will tell you that you can make your own fate. This is far more aligned with the metal ideas of things that are bigger than people. The idea that you can't interfere with a predetermined line of fate, that everything is planned out by something greater than you, and that you have a futile chance of even understanding it or affecting it in any way. And it also has really great ideas of the inversion of youth, the inversion of beauty that will come to a head at the very end of the movie. The cinematography is gorgeous. There's scenes that are set in Venice that it's just a very, very stylish film. And the great movies will offer you character development. A lot of movies that are considered good will have very little character development. A great movie will have a lot of character development, but in even greater sense, the greatest movies involve characters that are being exposed through something greater that's pressing down on them, something that will make them reinterpret themselves, because like most movies that we consume they deal with the just human ideas, where we are trapped by our human vices, how to overcome our human vices. this and movies like this and metal records that are great will deal with the idea that we are insignificant, and anything that we do to try to interfere with greater powers in any way will end up coming short due to human nature being essentially rooted in meaninglessness. Although there is that sense of hope that drives the film, the main character is guided by hope. You end up having it fall flat on its face in a way where it showcases the folly of trying to interpret situations to benefit yourself as a protagonist, thinking that you can control a scenario that is beyond you. And it's also, if you look at the tagline, it deals with the idea that you do have things that come to light in terms of being warnings that you shouldn't be interfering with certain things. It culminates in the end where someone is just, the protagonist, Donald Pleasance in this movie, is not listening to clairvoyant characters that are trying to illustrate to him that he is going down the wrong path. And that pride that will infect human nature, that will get you to just say, fuck it, I'm going to do my own thing, I'm in control of this scenario, that kind of thing ends up going belly up at the end of this movie. And it shows you that you really can't interfere with that kind of idea, that fate is planned out for you. You can choose to understand it, but all of the habits that we undergo, the relationships that we try to hold together, and the futile things that we do to try to give meaning in ourselves, it really ends up being meaningless in the end. And if you do try to gain meaning out of something in this movie, it most likely is rooted in the idea that you can't let grief steer your actions. You have to allow yourself to pursue the things in life that don't involve going backwards, trying to change the past, or trying to, well, you can't change the past, and in this movie you can't change the future either. So it really does involve dealing with the present. He's in Venice. He is in a scenario where you can enjoy one of the most gorgeous cities on Earth, and he is still wrapped up in the past, trying to find any kind of sense in the grieving process that he's undergoing, and he's at the same time trying to interrupt the fate that is being presented on him by trying to locate his deceased daughter through the visions he's having, and trying to maintain that kind of bridge into the supernatural. It deals with the idea that humanity should not tread in certain places, and we should live in the now. We should enjoy what we have, and he squanders his relationship in the pursuit of both the future and by dwelling on the past. And a lot of amazing concepts come together in the end in a way where the babbling I'm doing right now doesn't do this movie justice, but the way everything comes together in the end really gives the entire piece a form of sense where you do realize this is a sum that is so much greater than its parts, and this rings true of all the great metal records. It presents you with the idea that like other metal records, that humanity is insignificant. We should not be trying to interfere with fate. That sense of dread that permeates the movie, that's what you want to feel in great, ugly death metal records, ugly black metal records, anything in the extreme metal umbrella. This kind of dread, that hue that you can't shake. It really is that kind of atmosphere that you don't get in modern movies, you don't get in modern music, or modern metal rather. There's a lot to take in here. I've only seen this movie a handful of times, but it is a very indulgent movie for the senses and for the deeper meanings that are being interplayed within it. So I highly suggest this movie. Like I said, I love splatter fucking nonsense movies, but if I want a really pithy, meaningful horror film that has so much more of that dread that you don't get in modern horror, you don't even get in like 80s horror, this is the one I would go with. It's a great character study, and it's a great study on how character is meaningless as well. So definitely check this one out, and thank you for watching.